Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MakerDAO Scientific Governance and Risk Meeting, number 135, I believe, taking place on Thursday, April 1st at 1700 UTC, same time each week. Welcome to everyone. I'm joined by a bunch of Maker people. You're all very, as always, very excited to see you all here. Yeah, as usual, we've got a bit of an agenda to get through. We've got weekly updates from kind of the regular groups, and we've also got a couple of other segments as well. I think we're going to have a segment from the kind of growth or the proposed growth core units to kind of discuss a little bit about some of the growth initiatives that already happened. And we're going to have an update, sort of a brief presentation on Liquidations 2.0 parameters, I think, from the smart contracts team. Before we get into that, I'll just kind of do the usual preamble. If you're here and someone is talking and you have questions, please ask them. We enjoy when people get involved. And yeah, it kind of makes it more friendly and more fun. So people enjoy answering questions generally. So one thing before I sort of dive into my kind of official section, I'm going to try not to do the Rich Brown thing and spend a lot of time at the beginning of the meeting talking. But so recently we've had some sort of kind of more contentious than usual topics on the forum and in the chat and various other places, meetings and such. I just kind of like to give a sort of general reminder to kind of everyone to try and keep things kind of civil and try and engage in kind of good faith in these discussions, these meetings, etc. Like, I don't think we're anywhere near getting to the point where I need to tell anyone that, but I think it serves as a kind of good general reminder. I think most people would agree that everyone's on the same side and we're all working towards the same goal. So please, if someone says something you disagree with, please try and take it in the, I guess in the best possible light, or with the best possible intentions. All right. So with that kind of brief preamble out of the way, I'll get into my updates for governance. So let's see, we passed an executive, last week's executive. It passed, I think, yesterday. Hasn't quite been executed yet. But that will see some increases to the debt ceilings and addition to the debt ceiling instant access module for a few of the Uni LP vault tokens, yeah, LP tokens, which I know a couple of people have been sort of eagerly awaiting. This isn't all of them. This is DAI ETH, USDC ETH, and DAI USDC, all of which are seeing increases. We also voted to increase the ETHB debt floor, also known as dust, from 2,000 to 15,000 DAI. And we also increased the surplus lot size from 10,000 to 30,000. So this is the lot size when we do flap auctions, which are where we burn auction off DAI to burn Maker. Okay. We also had a set of polls this week, all of which have passed. There were 4 polls. So we had these are all polls for debt ceiling increases. So we had increases for PSM USDC A, ZRX A, Wi-Fi A, and Compay. Wi-Fi A, I think, is kind of particularly timely because we're now at the debt ceiling, I believe, on Wi-Fi. So hopefully we can kind of get this week's executive passed relatively quickly and see that increased. So this week's executive will include all of those kind of 4 poll outcomes. It will also include the first budget distribution for the core units, the initial 3 that were ratified, which is governance, risk, and real-world finance. So we'll see like the first monthly payment of the budgets to those units, which is exciting. It's the kind of first, both on a personal level and on a sort of general level. Yeah, it should be cool. So that covers kind of the kind of polls and voting that's gone on this week. To give kind of a brief update of what GovAlpha has been doing, so micro units. We kind of posted about the MIPs portal a couple of times. We've had a new update pushed to the main URL. This now includes sub-proposals, so you can view sub-proposals on the MIPs portal. A couple of other improvements as well. You can now sort of link directly to a section within a MIP, which is kind of invaluable. The search functionality is slightly improved. There's been a couple of other polish and fixes, which are kind of more minor. But we're kind of we're very happy with how the development on that's going, and we've provided a sort of list of next spec, like a sort of v1.2 spec, so for new features for the next version. So development on that will continue. We've kind of added a bit of initiative of cleaning up the MIPs themselves and kind of also adding like tags, kind of to tie in with the MIPs portal. That's also, I think, going fairly well. We should see that sort of happen in the next few weeks. The idea being that we can use the tags then in the MIPs portal to kind of provide kind of more tailored searches that might be useful to individual core units or people interested in certain things. Kind of onboarding is going fairly well as well, I think. Sort of continuing to onboard pros, pin rows to operate many of the governance processes like the polls and the executive process. Continue to onboard ELA as well. The MIP3 rewrite is in progress. So we discussed this briefly, I think at last week's governance meeting. And since then we had a separate meeting about it as well. So we kind of agreed that MIP3, which is the monthly governance cycle MIP, could use a bit of a kind of rewrite or refresh. So that's in progress, and we're hoping to kind of post that early next week on the forum for kind of feedback. And then the final thing we've been working on is parameter documentation for Liquidations 2.0. Kind of hoping to make sure that when the first poll goes out for the link A parameters, which is on Monday, that governance will be able to kind of have easy links that will tell them what the parameters mean in case they're not fully aware. And that's kind of still in progress. We're kind of getting there. We're hoping to have everything ready for Monday. We may only get like the kind of 90% of the most important parameters done, but we'll see. All right. I guess anyone have any questions on any of the stuff I just said before I move on? Seems like people are mostly good, so I'll move on. So that brings us to Peyton, who I believe is going to give us Governance at a Glance, which I believe is being renamed to Forum at a Glance now. Peyton?
Yeah, that is the new branding we're going with, so stick with us as we figure out how to rename and retag things. But that was actually thanks to David's suggestion that we're rebranding as Forum at a Glance, which is a bit more accurate. Start off with a couple mostly celebratory notes. Total DAI supply above 3 billion. We're really exciting, especially how quick we crossed from 2 to 3 there. Saw a number of maker folks putting out tweets. David's in particular noted the days in between each billion, which is a really cool descending number to see. The surplus buffer will cost 20 million DAI today, which is also a pretty cool milestone. And good news on the VWAP front for DAI as well. We're down to $1.001 on that. Some cool announcements, things you might have missed from the forums. Seb and the Real World Finest team put together a really cool article on Medium about kind of crypto banking 101 and just comparing traditional finance structures to what we have going on over here in DeFi. Definitely recommend checking that out. And then yesterday we had our MKR compensation conversation that's led to some newly announced working groups. So definitely encourage everyone to follow up on that call and check out the forum posts. I'm sure Juan will highlight the initiative in his section later. As far as active discussions go on the forum, I do have a couple more semi-related to that note, I guess. First one comes to us via Planet X, who wrote about the core unit mandate overlap he was noticing in some of the applications. So pretty good discussion there. And then kind of following up on that, Seb also wrote a thread on business strategy and evaluation framework for business-like core units, kind of talking about how maybe we should be looking into the different core unit applications and what they mean to us from a business perspective. Only one active signal, I believe, currently, given that Shupi should have just ended. We're down to the petition letter to A16Z that Mio gave to us. So do go ahead and take a look at that if you haven't already. And that does it for this week's update.
Perfect. Thank you, Peyton. Yeah, a little light on signal requests this week, which is kind of a nice change in some ways. Yeah, so let's maybe move on. I think we're going to kind of buck the usual ordering and go with real-world finance now, since I think Seb has a engagement later on in the meeting. So Seb, do you want to go?
Yeah, thanks. 4 points on my side. First is the financial reports for last month will be done tomorrow. It was sadly too short today to get it done. There was some complication in the SQL query, but everything is fixed. Just on this note, we will have a discussion because my numbers give that we had less than 3 million last night at midnight, which is a bit different than the numbers we use usually. But we will, I will make a post about that. On the data infrastructure, I made some good progress, or at least I spoke with a lot of people from the foundation, from inside the foundation and outside to see how we can work together to create a data infrastructure to source all the data we need. Maybe not only for my core unit, but for other core units as well. And so if there is an idea of a data core unit outside in the wild, please reach out to me. So I stopped working on that and I would just ask you from data right now. On the collateral side, we will have a new silver quite soon. I will let Chris expand more on that. We will have the final due diligence with them next Tuesday. And I will have to find a bit of DAI to invest in this pool myself, as I'm one of the co-investors in the pool. And we will work on a timeline with smart contract and other monetary actors to see how we can onboard more real-world assets in the next few months. So we have a pipeline. We have consult rights that can be done almost any time. But maybe we will probably wait a little bit to see if it works well with New Silver and then onboard some other collaterals. And last one, yeah, I created an article on crypto banking 101. So pros already told you that, so you have the link and you can read it and you can complain that DAI is below USDC in this chart, but we can have a discussion as well on this. If you have some questions, please feel free to ask.
I guess one kind of procedural thing. I know Primosh is off this week. Did he kind of pass on anything that you wanted you to bring up?
No. We have a discussion on Liquidation 2.0 because it's a main topic currently, but nothing important, at least not that I'm aware of.
Great, thank you. All right. So any other questions for Seb before we move on? All right, brings us to smart contracts. Chris?
Yep. Hey everybody, Chris on the smart contracts team. I'll give my usual preamble about I'm on Starlink and may freeze up on you. So Peyton, if you could keep moving, that lets me know. So on the collateral onboarding sheet, we didn't make any progress on it last week, but we've assigned Naz to it. So he's going to go through and give a gut check on each one of those collaterals. So hopefully we can start to get a ranking for all of the newly added collaterals over the last probably 2 months. And we'll have an idea of where we're going to pick up after Liquidations 2.0. So there were no collateral assessments this week. For that reason, we're still very busy. But there are updates on collateral to Kovan. We ended up shipping PAX-G to Kovan. And if you'll recall, PAX-G requires a bit of a little extra massaging to get into the system because they do fee charging on transfers. And so our current way of using the system with UIs would have had like kind of a double fee. That situation exists for Tether too, but Tether doesn't have the fee turned on. So this is a very generic way to sort of handle any kind of token that does fees on transfer. Then we also have NS2 DRP. And I'll talk on that in just a little bit. You're probably wondering what the heck NS2 DRP is, but I'll mention it in a second. I'm gonna flip it around a little bit. I'm gonna go the miscellaneous stuff first before we get into the like more detailed sections. So just miscellaneous, we're dealing with the medians on Kovan and trying to make it so their price updates get reflected. That's kind of like a crossover collaboration with the Oracle team. And then we have 3 things in review. We have a more efficient mega poker that we're looking at. So, hopefully we'll get that out soonish in Kovan first. And we have the LP Oracle tokens. So that review is happening, and also the sushi join adapter, which I think is off to audit right now as well. So, those are the sort of miscellaneous items. So then on the MIP22 centrifuge front, so if you'll recall, MIP22 is a liquidation mechanism. So it's like their kind of custom auction or custom liquidation mechanism. And we shoehorned that system, that like real world asset edition, into a MIP21 style adapter. So it's still sort of relevant to call it MIP22 because they're still handling their own liquidations. But it's in the sort of MIP21 format, which made it easier for us to adapt it. So we've added the first version of that for Centrifuge, which is the new silver edition. That's the NS2 DRP token that we added to Kovan yesterday. So, so MIP22 and MIP21 is officially in Kovan and is being tested in Kovan now. The expectation is if we end up doing liquidations 2.0 next Friday, that they'll probably end up going out with YFI the week after. But if we slip on liquidations 2.0 next week, we may end up shipping them instead. And there's a couple windows of opportunity to ship them onto mainnet over the next, say, month and a half. So, so that's great news. They're really close. So with regards to liquidations 2.0, I think unless anyone really wants to see the timeline, I'm gonna save time on that. The timeline's basically the same with one exception. So we were hoping to have liquidations 2.0 out by Wednesday, but there's just an utterly insane amount of sort of process and work and moving parts. And so we've got like tons of checklists and probably like 4 or 5 ancillary systems that we've been working on. So it's not quite there yet. So we're hoping to have it out by this Friday. So that would be the only like timeline change. And then part of that work is we had some dust consistency changes that we merged, a few other like just comment changes and whatnot that we merged in the main PR. Yes, in Kovan. We'll have it out in Kovan on Friday, as Kurt is noting, in case that wasn't clear. We reviewed the Clipper Mom and merged that. So the new Clipper Mom that's going to have that, publicly accessible circuit breaker on it is all reviewed and ready. We also reviewed the ESM replacement, which we'll give an update on, I think probably next week as well. And then we are currently, so the ILK registry has been completed, but is in review. So that's like the next thing on our checklist. And then we also have some DSS interfaces changes that we need to update. And then there's the actual Kovan spell itself, which now has this giant checklist on it. If you guys are lurking in there, you can see like this spell is going to be giant. So it's probably, if you're interested in and into auditing this stuff, you may want to like look at it as we're working on it. And then we also have a number of changes that are going to be low. So they're not going to like change really the format of MIP45, but they're like clarifications on MIP45, including the additions of all of the audits, which have concluded. So all auditors that we've engaged, as well as the gauntlet simulations, are completed. And so we're going to post all of those audit reports into the MIP 45, as well as like make a few sort of clarifications and flesh out some like function parameters and other stuff in that PR. So so expect that. You know, Long or anyone, you guys are going to have to tell us if you think that's too many changes for a MIP. I don't know exactly what our procedure is for updating MIPs. I think if we change the overall structure, it'd probably be bad, but this is mostly just clarifications. So, and then we still have the work remaining. We have to create the bug bounty for Liquidations 2.0 and the update the security docs. And the security docs are blocked on us updating the MIP 45. So, and later in the meeting, I assume we'll cycle back, but Emilio has put together a presentation on using Link A to talk about or discuss some of the governance or the risk parameters that everyone is going to see when they go up for a vote. So, and you'll have an opportunity to ask them stuff. For the next section, I'm going to hand off to Sam really quick and just have him mention the work that's been done on DAI and Optimism for L2.
Yep, thanks, Chris. So what we have for updates from Optimism L2, the Optimism team has delayed their launch, which is actually pretty nice for us because it gives us more time to do audits and stuff. We don't have to rush the contracts out. It's good for them too because they can do audits as well, the Optimism team, that is. So we've developed an upgradable version 1 bridge that in the future can be replaced to support fast withdrawals. We've also developed a governance repeater, which is a mechanism which will allow us to run spells on L2 Optimism, which is great. So we don't need to necessarily use a multi-sig. We've also been taking an active role in Optimism's token bridge standard design discussions. So yeah, that's all from Optimism.
Yep, and then I guess I'm going to also transition over to Derek for the community section because he's been doing a lot of work on the SC domain team or the protocol engineering team. So
yeah, cool. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so yesterday I submitted what was formerly known as a smart contract core unit application, now in formal submission. And yes, it's been renamed to protocol engineering. And this is because we've expanded the team to include 2 more individuals, namely Bartek and Chris, who have been doing a lot of work, as you just heard from Sam, on L2 R&D with regards to Optimism. So here it's enabling us to focus on innovation growth and the L2 world a lot more than we had previously been able to focus on. So I think it's a great addition. Some other points to this, though, that in the upcoming weeks, I'm going to be focusing on building up team-specific backlogs, priorities, and OKRs in advance of the executive vote. The reason I point this out is I just saw a good comment from IAMEO in our MIP 39 adding protocol engineering core unit that I want everyone to go and check out and comment on and read. The changes are mentioned in the introduction, in the motivation section, so you'll have a comprehensive view of what we're talking about. But I mention this point because we are committed on working on strategies for decentralization and building a structure that enables multiple teams to contribute to the protocol. I recognize this is quite a large team, and I want to have the opportunity to discuss with the community and use OKRs as a mechanism to introduce the transparency of what we're working on. So IAMEO, yeah, thanks for your comment. I'll have a read through and get back to you after the call in the thread. But for me at the moment, yeah, we've submitted the protocol engineering, the MIP, the budget MIP, and also the MIP for myself as the facilitator of the team. So yeah, and that's it from me. Any questions?
Yeah, that's it for smart contracts. So if anybody has any questions for any of us, let us know, and then we'll hand back off to Long. Hey, Starlink didn't cut out on me.
Yeah, more satellites, more stability, maybe. All right, cool. Thank you. It doesn't seem like anyone has any immediate questions, so we'll move on. Let's see, oracles. Nick, do you have any updates for us this week?
Cool. Yeah. So there was a light feed proposal from DeFi Saver. I've reviewed their proposal. All checks out. So that should be going up for a polling vote on Monday for the DAO to vote on. I see Andrew in chat is very excited about this. But no, they're a cool team, and they've done a lot to bring the maker ecosystem further along, right? You know, they've provided like an alternative interface to Oasis, and it's quite popular. I mean, I use it. I know a bunch of the maker guys use it as well. And the automation service that they've made, I mean, it's it's definitely prevented, you know, this kind of like, you know, auction vulnerability that we have, right? That we're trying to make Liquidations 2.0 to cover. But in the interim, it's definitely served us quite well in protecting the system from taking losses on Liquidations. So you know, that's not to try to influence your vote. You know, vote however you feel like, but they're a pretty strong team, I gotta say. On the this is a little bit tangentially related, but I'm kind of the point of contact for ABDK right now, ever since we did the Uniswap LP audit with them. So we're still working on finishing some of the fixes that they brought up in their audit. And so until we kind of respond to them in kind with, okay, this is what we did to patch all this, we're not going to get the final kind of audit report back from them yet. But the blocker here is purely from our side, right? Because it involves kind of taking up some of the smart contract team's bandwidth, right? And they're quite busy at the moment. But we're definitely looking to get that back to them soon. I'm not sure if Sam mentioned this, but we've also gotten ABDK to agree to do the audit for the crop join adapter implementation for SushiSwap. So not the generalized one that Rain and Lev submitted for Compound, or I shouldn't say generalized, but not the full one that Rain and Lev submitted for Compound. This is kind of a pared down version that's much simpler, because the SushiSwap mechanics for farming are much simpler. So we're going to get them to do the audit for that this month. It's going to cost 8,000 DAI. They originally quoted us something like 4,000, and we just we doubled it because we think they do really, really good work. And, you know, we do want to have a good relationship with them going forward, where they might, you know, prioritize our audits, or yeah, Peyton, AK is still really cheap given the quality of the audit. So let me put it this way: if we didn't double their salary and get the goodwill points for doing that, someone else would have in you know, a couple weeks from now, and we would have been paying that anyway, you know, on the next audit. So it's better to be the first, and generate that goodwill, so you can, you know, have a good longer term relationship, right? And, you know, they're the ones that audited Uniswap v3, or they're one of the teams that audited Uniswap v3. So, you know, they're being recognized that they do really good quality work, right, in the community. And it's kind of just like they're a really well kept secret right now, and, you know, everyone knows that the secret's going to get out. So, you know, we want to front run that and make sure that that we have a really good relationship with them. So that should be happening in April. So we should probably expect to get that back by, let's say, beginning of May, right? And then we would have another round of feedback process with them in terms of, right, making the changes and getting that initial, that kind of final report out. We can do something similar that we did with the Uniswap LP Oracle, where if there are no critical issues found, then we can kind of deploy the SushiSwap crop join adapter without, the final report being published yet. But that's highly dependent on no, big issues being found in the audit, right? And that's we can't guarantee that, right? I mean, it's completely new code. So that's exciting. But back to normal Oracle stuff. So we've been working on revamping the Oracle Kovan deployment. It basically used to source from its own little kind of feeds. So it wasn't sourcing from like the real kind of production mainnet feeds. And so that's kind of part of this this effort that we're making, right, to get Liquidations 2.0 running on Kovan, right, in a kind of realistic type of environment. So that's going to help people who are trying to integrate the changes that are coming with Liquidations 2.0. So those should be completed. That migration should be completed later today. The latest by Friday, but I'm hoping today. I see there's a comment from Tim in the chat about, do we have a framework agreement with ABDK already? No, we do not, but that would be kind of the next step here, is to just draft a more formalized kind of relationship with them, where we can, say we want, 20% of your time every month, something like that, right? And we can lock in a price now before the price goes through the roof. Let's see, core unit stuff. I hope I can share more details on the Oracle core unit soon. I want to have the proposal submitted to the community by May 1st, which is a month from now, so we could include it in the June MIPS cycle. So I'm kind of trying to basically have the entity running by middle of June or so. And then assuming that the core unit proposal passes and I get the funding, then the transition out of the foundation would be happening, mid-July to end of July. So that's kind of the timetable that I'm working on. Yeah, Uniswap LP oracles, right? We just had the vote to raise the debt ceilings, so that's cool. The rates group is talking about raising the debt ceilings for more of the Uniswap LP collateral types. In terms of specific numbers, I don't think they've really reached a consensus on that yet. But I do know that the plan is to kind of lean towards the ETH derivative ones, not really the ERC20 to ERC20 ones. So things like, what did we raise now? We did DAI USDC, right? We did DAI ETH, and we did USDC ETH, right? So I think the next ones would be probably ETH USDT. Yeah, and probably something like Uni ETH as well, because that one's quite popular. We've seen a lot of people ask for that one. Wrap BTC ETH could be interesting as well. Yeah, and I think that is it from my end.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Nick or around oracles?
Oh yeah, actually, there's one more thing. So this patched client that we've been talking about forever now, that fixes the state size issue, that looks to be really stable now. We've gotten an instance, I think, close to 100 gigabyte now, or at least that's the target, and we're inching towards it. Versus the state size maximum was previously like 4.3 gigs. So we're well beyond it, and we're going to be looking to launching that in the next few weeks.
All right. Okay, let's move on. So I believe we're skipping risk this week, as aforementioned, Parisha's away. Please interrupt if anyone knows otherwise. So maybe we'll move on to operational support.
Yes, thank you, Long. So we have been busy with a couple of interesting things. One of them is there's a new version of the MIPs portal. So if you go to mip.makerdao.com, you will find well, this improved search, sub-proposals mode, and better visualization. So it's quite nice to browse through the MIPs. And yeah, we're using it to, well, the governance alpha team is using it to cleanse a lot of the data, make sure that they are consistent and readable. So I don't know, special thanks to Pablo for having done most of the heavy lifting there. Regarding Know Your MIP, I just confirmed one with Tim Schupner and Seb. It's going to be next Friday, so not tomorrow, but the Friday after at 1 p.m. UTC. We'll publish the agenda very, very soon. And they're going to be talking about the Eurodai MIP. So if you're interested, please join us. Regarding collateral onboarding, next week we have a Bancor, April 7th, and it will be followed by Solid Block that they will be talking about real world finance. So yeah, the agendas are in the forum. Core units, we've seen a lot of updates. We're keeping track, or trying to keep track of everything on the coreunit.makerdao.network website. Let us know if you see something. There's a new image to kind of know what the deadlines are if you're planning on presenting a core unit. So by all means use it. We have Autonomous yesterday in a call explaining how AutoCore works and how to spin an LLC from directly from a wallet. So it was quite interesting. Recordings already up in YouTube, and it was followed by the maker compensation framework. That's, well, a lot of people were present there. Yeah, most of that later, but what I wanted to say before is that there will be a call with David Utroben on the 21st of April, and we'll be discussing his proposed core unit, which is GovComs, with all the new modifications that he has been doing. And then, yeah, the other important news, as Derek mentioned it already, there's the protocol engineering core unit that has been renamed to align more with the mandate. Yeah, there's still a lot of interesting topics and conversations going on, as Prost mentioned. But what I wanted to make a special emphasis on is the maker compensation working group. So after the call that we had yesterday, we are looking to assemble a small group that can put forward proposal for governance that we can vote on, right? So we're looking for one current core unit, either facilitator or contributor, one for a proposed one. Then we're looking for a third party that will be neutral and hopefully can bring experience to the topic. And then for a large maker holder and a community member with less of a position. So we're trying to consider all these voices, and hopefully we can agree on something and propose something. So yeah, there's the link that I believe it was posted, but I'll post it again in the chat. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's any questions about it. All right, thank you, Long.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. All right. Yeah, so I'd encourage, like, I was kind of present at that meeting yesterday as well. I would encourage anyone that wants to kind of maybe take part in this group, right, as one of these representatives, to post in the forum. I think we've had a couple of volunteers for some of the groups so far, but I think we're still waiting for anyone to volunteer for some of them. So yeah, if you think that might be a good fit for you, please post on the forum. All right, that brings us to MIPS. Is it David this week? Or is it
it's me this week. It's me. Can I please get the screen for a sec?
Yep.
All right. Cool. So you should be able to see my screen now. So today, this week's weekly MIPS update is pretty short. And so here's the update. Welcome to the April cycle. It officially starts on April 5th, which is this coming Monday. Formal submissions likewise begin April 5th and are open through April 7th. So you have basically Monday through Wednesday to submit them. And then, yeah, the MIPS portal officially launched, which Juan already mentioned. And so, yeah, that's it. So we're actually here. We're in kind of a middle week between the two governance cycles. And so this Monday is really where we're going to be kicking it off. And I also listed in this image some important dates to note. So for the entire cycle. So there's a formal submission period, the usual inclusion polls happening in week 2, a bundled MIPS executive vote happening in week 3, and finally, we conclude the governance cycle with a bundled MIPS executive vote happening in week 4. And so, yeah, there might also be one slight change to this calendar. I know that the executive vote on the 9th for Liquidations 2.0 Link A support might be moved forward given Chris's update earlier on this call. But besides that, everything seems to be going well. And I guess one more thing, with the parameter rates group MIP that just passed this last governance cycle, we can actually reliably expect rate proposals to happen on the first Monday of the month to be included in the weekly cycle for week 2. So if you're a regular MKR voter, you can expect parameter changes pretty reliably from this point on to happen during week 2's executive vote on Friday. And so, yeah, that's it for the MIPS update this week for me. Short and sweet.
All right, thanks, David. Yeah, as David said, not a whole lot to go through this week because it's kind of a gap week. We'll start in earnest for April next week. Right, so that brings us to the end of our kind of regular weekly updates. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got a couple of segments. The first of which I think will be from Nadia, who is maybe giving us an update on what kind of the growth core unit, or what will be the growth core unit, has been doing. Nadia, are you good to go?
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, 1 second. There you go.
Okay. Okay, everyone is seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Great, awesome. Well, I wanted to join the governance call because after reading every post about the growth core unit and other business-oriented core units, I thought it was important, like, to explain a little bit more about who are we and what kind of work we've been doing in the foundation. Like, honestly, we thought that our work had more visibility, but after reading the post, we think there's a lot to improve in the way how we communicate what we are doing to the community. Like, I was thinking on start doing something like this, something similar like this, and after we started the core unit, but I thought it's important, like, to give you an overview about what the growth core unit or the actual business development unit does for the foundation. So before we start, I want to make sure everyone understands what is a distribution channel, because we perceive that some could think that a distribution channel could be like Twitter or Instagram or any other social network but not. In the case of the growth core unit, the distribution channel, our partners is what we call partners. And those are companies or projects or institutions, even governments, that after they integrate some element of the Maker protocol, they will allow their users to borrow and generate DAI, to buy and sell DAI, or to do something with DAI. So I wanted to make sure like everyone understands this, because our focus are the partners. It's not like the Maker message, it's not the Maker users, it's the users that will reach Maker through those partners who integrated the Maker protocol. So everything we do it with them. That's very interesting, because when we launch a product with a partner, all the marketing and all the message that we launch is with that partner, is not using the Maker brand. So for example, in Latin America, I think few people knows about the Maker protocol, but everyone knows about DAI, because we think it will be harder for people in Latin America due to gas fees and the user interface that DeFi has today to use the Maker protocol directly. So that's why we need our partners. And I created this Notion page that I will share with all of you in the forum. And is to share what is our current situation, what are the challenges that we are facing right now with other stable coins in the market, what did we learn, and what our partners are saying, and what do we want to know from the community? Because like for us was like amazing to read all those posts about what you expect from a growth core unit or a marketing core unit. And we have more questions for you, for the community, so we can like help the Maker protocol to grow. So our current situation, we have different partner types. You can find like this that I put in here is like a more detailed information than you will find in the proposal. But if you read the proposal, you will get the idea. But I try to give like a little bit more of visibility for work during the time we have been in the Maker Foundation. These are the type of partners that we have until now. We try to divide them into different categories, and actually we manage a CRM where we put the information of all the partners that we have. Right now we have over 1,000 partners in different parts of the world, and all of them are focused on different solutions. So for us, after seeing this chart, like the conclusion, but we all know that, is that for us is easier to get an integration done when we talk with a DeFi project, because we are all in the same game and we are all after the same objective. So when we started, and that's also very interesting, like the Maker Foundation was the only one with a business development team focused on different verticals, focused on different geographies, and that allowed us to put DAI into every DeFi protocol. And right now, well, the Maker protocol is like a foundational block in all the composability of DeFi. Now, as I said before, our partners are our priority. And we don't want them to integrate DAI just because. We want them to integrate DAI when that makes sense. And that's why we are always trying to understand what are our differentials. So we found out that the DAI savings rate was like the best aspect of the Maker protocol, because it is a decentralized stablecoin which has a higher savings rate, and it's a savings rate that could be higher even than the one you could find in any other bank or in any other financial institution or in any other DeFi protocol. And it is perceived like a safe way to earn interest over your savings. other big differentiator between DAI and other stablecoins is how it is a censorship resistant currency. That is like nice, but is not always what everyone wants. We have found that this is a nice feature in countries with a regime or with capital controls restrictions, where people found out that decentralization has its own value. Then, well, it's real world assets, but our partners want to wait until we have one real asset in the protocol, because they want to understand how it will work and how it is. Like they have read Maker Forum, and they all know this is going to be huge, but most of them are waiting to see how this will work. And also, like a great thing that we have is the lending rates of the protocol. These are some, like I just put in here like some images that pop up in my mind about what we do with our partners. So that's why you won't find any like marketing campaign related to a partner with Maker, but we prefer to work with our partners in that. And that is how we like put this advertisement in every street in Argentina. That was like amazing. And we also are always looking for new solutions, like new distribution channels, sorry, to put all these important features of DAI and to offer this to people. And that is why we did a big effort to be a currency into the peer-to-peer Binance platform, because we are seeing that in these countries where censorship resistant is important, they also need different ways to access to the stable coins. So that was the reason why we put an extra focus to different peer-to-peer markets in different regions, like in Latin America or in Nigeria. Well, challenges we are finding is we need to generate trust with our Vault users and with our DAI users. Vault users are afraid because of the Black Thursday, because the changes that constantly we do in the risk parameters, like big Vault users like Nexo, they have another business. So thanks to the BD effort that there's someone who are constantly talking with these companies, and they are always informing them about these changes, they can start trusting more in our protocol. And also we have been seeing that these big Vault users are looking for more options to protect them from a liquidation risk. And from a DAI user perspective, the PEG is super, super important. If you go to and ask someone who wants to use DAI for remittances, or someone who wants to move large amounts of DAI, or someone who is saving DAI, PEG is super important, because it means like something they can trust in, because they want to know how much one DAI is in dollars, like always. There's also important to work in more transparency, not for the protocol, because the protocol itself is transparent, but like in tools where people who is not into crypto, or companies who are not into the crypto space could like understand why the Maker protocol is transparent. So tools like DAI stats are awesome, but we have to work in like a better user experience for these kind of tools. And also we know that EuroDAI is important if we want to grow in the fintech market or in the traditional financial system in Europe. So that are the challenges we are facing when we are reaching like bigger companies or banks or governments or NGOs or bigger OTCs that move a lot of stable coins between countries. Another thing I wanted to talk, and I put DSR in here because we really need to have DSR different than 0, because that is our biggest differentiator. When people have DAI, they automatically trust in DSR. So if we go to a fintech and we pitch them about DAI, the integration of DAI and the integration of the DSR is almost the same in terms of risk for them. And we are offering a huge value when they integrate the DSR. And one thing that we know is that the DSR doesn't have to rely on the rates that the legacy banking system has. So we think that in a couple of months, all the savings accounts in other stable coins will go down. And that's the moment to shine with the DSR. If we can like put a higher DSR, like a stable DSR during a long time, that will be a great feature for our partners. Other challenge we are facing is the conversion between DAI and USD and fiat. Although we have different on-off ramps in different countries, and not just with USD as the fiat currency, when our partners have to do the math and they have to consider the peg plus the slippage plus the fees, they will prefer other stable coin to do their transactions. So we have to just to be aware of that and think about what else we can do. And that again is why we think the DSR is so important. Well, the gas fees, I'm not going to go deeper into that because we all know what is the problem with the gas fees. What we learned, this will be a little bit redundant, but with the C5 vaults, so for example, Nexo or Celsius, who have opened vaults to get loans in DAI, that requires a strong relationship with those partners. Like we are not communicating that to the community. We are not telling you all the efforts that it takes, but we want you to be aware of that. Like we have to develop a relationship with them if we want them to put a large amount of assets into our vaults, because it's not just, they need not just to trust in the Maker protocol, but they need to trust into people, and they need to be informed about all the changes of the protocol. And if they integrate it with any aspect of the protocol, we also have to engage the integrations team of the Maker Foundation to help those partners to check those integrations and do it again sometimes. Well, decentralization matters, but if it costs an extra money, it doesn't matter unless we pitch that in countries that understand what could be the risk if a government or a bank or, I don't know, a financial policy frozen their accounts. So that's why decentralization is important in countries like Argentina, Venezuela, or Nigeria. And we are not talking about the black market or like money laundering. We're just talking about people who had lost money because of the government or the bank or bad decisions of the banks. We need to push DAI in other networks, because we are seeing how Binance Smart Chain is gaining users because of the lower on non-existent gas fees. We have to push more DAI in Polkadot. We have to push more DAI in XDAI. Like those are other distribution channels, and we have to also pay attention to them. And I wanted to put this in here because I have been seeing in the forum that you're also saying, some people are saying that maybe you could just give 3 or 4 months a trial period to the core units and see how it goes. Well, in our experience, the time to close an agreement could go from 1 month to maybe 2 or sometimes more years. And that is because it depends on the tier of the partner. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to our proposal. I explained with detail how we divided our deals and the companies who are integrating the Maker protocol. But just to give you a picture, this is how the closed deals has been growing during time. And that is because, well, we have a more established brand of DAI in different markets, but also because closing and integration takes a lot of time. And to finish, well, what we want to know from the community regarding reporting, transparency, and marketing is, okay, yes, we agree with you on that, but we have to understand for who, why do we want to do that, and where should we publish that? So for the community, I think it's like something that we have an idea of what to do. This is what we put in our proposal about what we want to communicate to the community every month. We want to tell you about what is happening with our partners, do something similar than we do today. We want to tell you more about the closed deals or the integrations that we are working with and are growing right now. We want to tell you about how much it costs to close that integration because we did a marketing campaign with them or we did an educational campaign with them, I don't know. And we want to give you an overview of our plan for next quarter. But there's also 2 different actors that are relevant in terms of transparency or communication or marketing. One is the crypto space because we have to stay relevant. So we need to tell everyone the new partners, the new use cases, the products we are creating with our partners. So my question to you is where we should publish that. Because the forum for me is just for the community, but if we want to reach the crypto space, should we do the same as we are doing right now with the Maker blog? I don't know, but when I read your some responses, so some thread responses in the forum, one thing that I felt was that I think some people is not reading the Maker blog. So maybe that's not the best channel to communicate what we are doing with our partners. So my question for the community is, which one is the best channel to do that? And it's also important to stay relevant and position our brand in the non-crypto world. So I think this is out of our scope because as I mentioned before, our focus is in the partners. And I guess this is more a mandate for the Marcoms or the marketing or the content core unit. But for us it's relevant. And I think for all the Maker protocol is relevant because we need to position ourselves out there. And the last thing is, what about Maker? And I want to open this conversation because, someone said in the forum that we are all putting our focus in DAI or the vaults, but no one is talking about MKR. So I want to know, and I want everyone, every core unit, the community, to get an agreement of what we want to do about MKR. Are we really want to do something that is something that we as the growth core unit should go after our partners and start creating campaigns to pump MKR? Or is that a bad decision? That's something that we don't want to decide by ourselves. We want to understand what are you thinking and know your opinions. I'm going to stop sharing right now. And sorry, I didn't read the chat because I was sharing my screen, but if anyone has questions, comments.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few comments in the sidebar, maybe too many to go over now. I think that was kind of really useful, Nadia, and I think everyone kind of found it so. So thank you very much for presenting that. I think we may be running a little low on time and we still have another presentation to get through. So perhaps we could kind of sort of direct the feedback to the forum. Maybe has the kind of growth core unit had like sort of done like a kind of growth unit pod meeting yet? Juan, maybe you can answer this. Like, is one of those scheduled?
As a core unit, what? Sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
You've been doing like the core unit pod video series, right? Have the growth core unit been on one of those yet, or are they scheduled to?
No, they have. They were the first.
Right. Cool. So maybe. Yes, that's right.
Maybe
I remember now.
Have another one.
So maybe, yeah. I'm wondering whether I kind of feel bad because I'm kind of having to move on the discussion rather than open it for questions, right?
No, we can definitely schedule like a mini session that people can either attend or watch offline in YouTube. So yeah, let's pick Nadia.
Yeah, maybe that'd be useful because I think perhaps people missed the first one, maybe not knowing what the kind of series was about. So maybe a repeat could be useful.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, again, thank you, Nadia. That was awesome. All right, so I hope people don't mind if we go a little bit long, but I do think it's kind of important to get through this smart contracts Liquidations 2.0 presentation today as well before we have to vote on parameters. So maybe Emilio, are you set? Are you ready?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Emilio from the Smart Contracts team. And so let me share my screen.
You should be able to.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Perfect. So I know we're low on time. I'm gonna try to go rather quickly. But of course, feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna explain what this, how Liquidations 2.0 work, and I'm gonna give you a very concrete example using the link parameters that the risk team established. So first, heads up, this is not a complete example. There are in total 9 parameters, but I think these 4 that I'm gonna present to you are the 4 most important. But of course, this is, so if you wanna know the whole picture, please read the forum post where the risk team explains them very well. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. So the first thing I wanna do is a recap of how Liquidations 1 work. So we're on the same page and we can compare that to how Liquidations 2 will work. So in Liquidations 1, we have a target price that we wanna raise in a certain auction, and then we have a limit in the auction duration. Right now for Link, that limit is 4 hours. So people start bidding, so this represents a bid. And of course, at the beginning, the bids are very low. But with time, they start bidding higher and higher. Note that all these bids, they can't really choose the amount of collateral they're buying. They have to buy the whole thing. And this is the first phase of the auction, called the Dent Phase. And then when the target price is reached, there is a new phase, which is called the Dent Phase, where the price remains the same, but the amount of collateral can go down. So new bids are made with lower collateral until at a certain point before the action is ended, there's one bid that gets accepted, and this person is the one who buys the collateral. So this is how liquidations 1 work. Now let's compare it to how liquidations 2 work. So we also have like some sort of target price. It's not really, it's more like the market price given by the OSM. And we established an initial price that is higher than this market price. And the main reason for establishing this initial price is because we're not exactly sure where the market is due to the OSM delay. We don't know exactly if the collateral price has gone up. So we established this initial price that the liquidations 2 auction is going to start. And also we establish a minimum price. So how does it work? So it goes from up to down now. So, well, this is the beginning, and then this is, so there is a price curve. So now people can't bid and give a specific price, but there is one price that is established via a mathematical formula that I will describe in a moment. So it starts going down in this first phase. There are no bids since probably it's higher than the market price. But as soon as it reaches the market price, in this case for the link collateral type, it's gonna be 40 minutes after the auction starts. Of course, if the market conditions haven't changed in the meanwhile. So we start having bids, and there's something interesting about this new system, and is that the bids get accepted immediately. And so the auction might finish at this point, unless there's more collateral, because also you don't have to buy the whole collateral auction, just the amount that you prefer. So another one, a smaller one, happens here, and then another one, and it will go on like that until it reaches the minimum price. In the case of Link, this minimum price will happen 2 hours and 18 minutes after the auction started. And if there's still some collateral left, then the auction can be redone. It can, it can be restarted, and the initial price is calculated again. So there are these first 2 parameters that I want to talk about. They're called BUF and CUSP, and they're the ones that determine the maximum and minimum values. So this is what we have again, and BUF is a percentage over the market price that is used to calculate the initial price. In this case, in the case of Link, it's going to be 30% higher, or 130% of the market price. And then there's CUSP, which is the multiplier to calculate the minimum price. In the case of Link, it's going to be 0.4 or 40% of, not of the market price, but of the initial price. So 40% of the market price times BUF. So these are the first 2 parameters that I wanted to talk to you about. And now let's go more to the shape of the price curve. And so the shape of the price curve is determined both by cut and step. So this is the price curve. So the previous one was just a drawing. This is the real one. So assuming 100 is the market price, so it will start at 130, and it will have this shape because it's an exponential function, and it will be like a little stair. And it is determined by this function. So I'm going to describe what this function is about. So first, 130, it's the initial price, as I just described. And it's price times BUF, as it was explained earlier. And then you have this part, which is the base of the exponent. And so since this is an exponential function, if this was higher than 1, the curve would go upwards. So obviously this is always less than 1. In this case, 0.99. So that means that it descends rather slow. And then this is cut. This is the cut parameter. So floor here, this is the function to have integer divisions. Actually, in Solidity, we don't need this because all the divisions are integer divisions. But floor, if we zoom in, this is what makes this very particular shape. And then we have this number here, which actually determines the length of these flat parts of the curve. So in this case, it's gonna be 1.5 minutes. This is mostly for a user experience of letting users know, like for 1.5 minutes, know what the price is. So I think that's it. Oh, so it's called step, this last parameter. So these are the 4 parameters that are the most important for Liquidations 2.0. I'm just gonna do a recap. So buff, max price multiplier, cusp, min price multiplier. I mean, these names, I mean, the names is buff and cusp, and you can, the rest is just a description, right? Cut is the curve of the price function, and then step is the time between price changes. I think this is it. I will share this presentation soon for anyone to consult this afterwards. And I don't know if there are any questions before I stop sharing.
Great, thank you, Emilio. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to ask questions if there's anything you don't understand. Don't worry about kind of feeling silly, right? It's important that everyone has at least a base understanding of how this works, right?
I guess I have a question, but it's not on the parameters that were covered. So if someone has something on these.
No, you should ask if it's about any other parameters.
Yeah, well, it was basically about tail versus cusp. Like, so when you adjust one, do you inherently need to adjust the other, or is it just that tail factors into kind of the linear decrease, how quickly the curve is going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. So tail is another parameter that I didn't cover here. In this case, it's not very relevant, but actually it's one or the other. Like either you, so for the people who don't know what tail is, so tail is something similar to what we have in Liquidations 1. So it's a time limit on the duration of a liquidation. But in this case, the risk team decided to use cusp, and then they just defined tail to be, instead of 2 hours, 18 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it's irrelevant, but the fact that tail exists allows to have this freedom of deciding which params you want to use, either a minimum price or a maximum period of time. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question. So what happens if no one wants to buy at the minimum price? Does it reset?
Yeah, so when it reaches the minimum price, no one can make a bid anymore. And then there's the possibility of resetting the function. And so the only reason why would this happen is that we're in a scenario where the price went up by a lot. So this minimum price didn't even reach the market price. Right? I mean, there could be also other scenarios with congestion, things like that. But
well, no, I'm thinking the price aggressively falls where the minimum price is above the fair market value price. So no one wants to bid the minimum price.
Exactly. Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
So the situation I'm bringing up is the actual fair value price drops very fast
Mm-hmm.
and is below this minimum price.
Exactly.
So there
yeah.
is no arbitrage that exists for anybody to bid the minimum price.
Exactly. Yeah. That's also what the scenario I was describing. So no one wants like this minimum price, in this case 52% of what was the market price is higher than the actual market price. So no one wants to bid. In that case, it's possible to reset. Anybody can reset the auction, and there's also even an incentive to do so. And this initial price gets recalculated according to the new market conditions. That if we assume that the oracles are working properly, then we will have this price updated. And if the market price fell, then the starting price will be much closer to that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I think no more questions. So thank you very much. Again, please check all the other parameters in the forum post, and I'll share with you this presentation. So thank you, and back to you, Long.
Thank you.
I have a question for the community. Is anyone planning on running a keeper, let's say now that you can, a keeper that doesn't require capitalization? So basically all you need is just the Ethereum for gas, and you can use flash loans to run one of these?
I personally, speaking as a community member and like ecosystem participant, am not, and that's because I feel like the bots set up in the space are just like way too, I guess, specialized to try to beat me. So I'm waiting for like a DAO that I could just go, or like some service that just allows me to go and participate in some way where I don't have to handle the setup myself.
Yeah, some of the cool things about this are that you can actually borrow the collateral in the auction from the auction contract, take it to the market and sell it, and then pay it back. So we actually provide a sort of a flash loan solution here, and we're hoping that other aggregators like 1inch and maybe DexAg will actually integrate these auctions right into their routing patterns. In which case you could be buying from a maker auction without ever really understanding, like knowing that. You just think you're buying from an aggregator.
That's really, really cool.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead, Akash.
Yeah, I had a question. Like, I'm kind of curious. Like, maybe this is covered in the forums, and I apologize because I probably haven't read it there. But how do you guys think about like people that might front run somebody who finally decides to bid on this, use a flash loan? Like, somebody theoretically could pick up that transaction, front run it, right?
No, I don't think it's theoretical. I think it'll probably start happening. That's an acknowledged challenge of the Ethereum space as a whole at the moment. If it becomes a problem in practice, where it's destroys the competitive ecosystem or something, then we'll have to think about other designs that lack this single block composability property that we really like here, that allows all these cool integrations and much more capital efficiency. And then we might have to go to some sort of like batched auction with sealed bids that would have different properties. But right now we're hoping that the MEV problem isn't bad enough that the design is just totally unviable. But we'll have to see in practice and how things evolve.
Right. So that brings up another question, which is, again, like in the first set of auctions, we noticed some people that would bid above fair market value, and people theorized that they were trying to drive away other auction participants. Like even with that, like bidding above fair market value, or there's this kind of 80-20 rule where like one auction participant will end up being really good at this with good technology. So if one person is constantly winning, like how are you going to combat that?
Well, the first question is, does the protocol care, right? So long as vaults are being effectively liquidated and the protocol is recapitalizing, to first order, it's not a big problem. Now, to second order, you worry about this problem that, well, you become overly reliant on one particular participant. And if they suddenly have a bug and stop working, or decide that, or they realize that, oh, hey, like we're the only person actually participating, then maybe the auctions don't get covered in those cases. But we think that Liquidations 2.0 is actually a lot more resilient than 1.2 in that respect, because it is so easy for anyone to come in and bid, right? DEX aggregate, if DEX, for example, if DEX aggregators have integrated with the auctions, people are, buying and selling these collaterals all the time. And so if the sort of active bidding participants have stopped, you'll still have that passive draw. And it's also super easy for someone to, just build a pretty static UI where people can just go and see what auctions are running. And if there's, if there are any good prices, you can imagine, building a Twitter bot that like alerts like, oh, hey, yeah, good prices in MakerDAO auctions. You can also imagine if MEV really is like the huge problem of like, you just can't buy anything without getting front run, you could imagine just building some like backstop bot that, sees auctions that aren't getting bid on and just broadcasts like, zero-way transactions or something that, basically signal to the front runners like, hey, you can cover this. And then they do it. And that's like very low cost thing to run. So, I guess the short answer is we'll see how it plays out, but we don't necessarily view that as necessarily a huge problem right now. But we'll have to see what the game theory works out to.
And sorry, is there a game theory audit that if you can post the link in the chat, that would be great to read.
I don't think we have a game theory audit. Some of the audits, got into game theoretic considerations. I mean, we certainly discussed MEV a lot. I think our audit with PwC got into that, which that report's not public yet, but you'll see that when it comes. But there wasn't a specific game theory audit, no.
So one other point I'd like to just remind people of is that we're kind of currently working on sort of more in-depth documentation for the parameters in Liquidations 2.0, which should be linked to in the first poll. So kind of like we do with some of the current parameters, we'll just have hyperlinks on each parameter name, which links to documentation that describes it and the kind of considerations around setting it. And I kind of mentioned this at the start of the meeting, but we're kind of hoping to have all of those ready for Monday. I think we'll definitely get like 90% of the way there. We may miss the last 10%, but we'll see.
I'll also mention that I think the long-term correct direction to think about liquidations going in is more along the lines of encouraging cooperative protocols. For example, I think Beak protocol has been discussed a lot, and they're already enabling liquidations to happen in a more predictable way for collateral types they've integrated. But so solutions like that change the zero-sum front-running game into some more non-zero sum or cooperative equilibrium. I think that's ultimately the better direction long-term in terms of the system being able to recapitalize. I think Ethereum as a technology is just fundamentally flawed because of this, because of exactly the things that make it so great, all the composability and transparency. The MEV problem, is sort of, foundational in Ethereum, and it's going to need to be solved in a big way. But we have to focus here on like an incremental improvement to our auction system in the meantime, because we're not solving that entire problem of Ethereum in one shot here. You know, potential directions for this in the future look like even going as far as having to become an app-specific chain or migrate to some like DeFi or specific chain or something that's more limited, where you just don't have like the infinite possibilities, because they create more problems than they solve. You know, so something like a Polkadot or Cosmos-like model, we may actually get there with rollups in Ethereum. Ethereum may evolve into more like a network of blockchains.
Nice. I like that.
But you know, we don't really know exactly where that puck is going yet, so we're just keeping an eye on it and keeping an open mind. And when there are clear better things to do, that's the direction we'll go.
Sorry for the dumb question, but does Optimism solve any of these problems?
Not really. Well, it depends a little bit on what scenario you're imagining. So let's imagine a scenario where you're running liquidations on Optimism, for example. Would that be sort of what you have in mind?
Yes. No, I'm just imagining, you know, because Optimism theoretically is so much faster, does it solve? It might solve the money extractable value problem, right?
I don't think the speed solves much of anything. I mean, you know, there aren't miners on Optimisms anymore. Now there's a validator. You just have validator extractable value. I think in some ways it might be slightly better, but
well, there's only one validator in the current version.
Yeah, like right, and like the proposed right, one of the proposed like models for Optimism is that the way validators make money is because they get to extract value. And I think you can still have, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can still have like front running and gas wars on Optimism as well, because there's still like a gas concept there, and transactions, you know, they still have a cost so that you can't abuse the network, so you can still compete on gas price. So I don't think, you know, just moving to some L2 necessarily solves it, unless it's an L2 that's architected in a way specifically to reduce or eliminate front running. And there are some discussions of how to do this at like the protocol level. I don't necessarily want to get into them here, but they involve things like splitting off the like, let's see, you split off the transaction inclusion from the transaction ordering steps and have like separate auctions for those or something like that. So, you know, there are ideas, but the short answer is no, Optimism doesn't make MEV go away.
All right, I feel like we're maybe getting a little bit sidetracked at this point, so we'll maybe consider that a sign to sort of wrap up. Does anyone have any final kind of comments or anything they want to make before we end today's meeting? All right, sounds like everyone's happy enough for the time being. So we'll wrap up now. Thank you again to Nadia and to Emilio there for doing those presentations, and for everyone for doing the usual updates. So thank you all. I'll talk to you all next week.
All right, guys. Well, bye. You guys.